Guys, I don't blame you. I actually used to be one of them. I used to be someone who believed that nuclear was a good idea. And then I realized that actually that was just a stupid idea. However, I still get a lot of emails. In fact, I get emails on a weekly basis from people saying, you need to see the light. Nuclear is the option. We need nuclear. We even need nuclear here in Australia, where there's more sun than almost any other country on the planet. However, an engineering study was done recently, and it highlighted some facts about nuclear that no one wants to know, no one wants to talk about. The truth here is nuclear, actually, when you look at the numbers, it's absolutely mind-blowingly insane. Now, if you watch a YouTube video from someone who has a vested interest, or you hear something from a politician, you're always going to hear some so-called facts. I'd call it pseudoscience. However, if you want some real science, here are some real facts about, well, why nuclear just is a terrible decision. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. I've mentioned on the channel many times, right? Nuclear, it sounds good. Nuclear power plants, they say, oh, it's only going to cost you $6 billion. And guess what happens? There has never been a nuclear plant built in the history of mankind that did not blow out in terms of costs. It's never happened. Really, how do we believe what the cost of nuclear is? Well, we can't. The recent Hinkley nuclear power plant in the UK, it was meant to cost something like $6 billion. I think it's now going to be about $18 billion. It's 6 years behind schedule. It's still not operational. Yeah, you get my point here. Here's the thing. If you were today to say we're going to build a nuclear power plant anywhere in the world, you're looking at a minimum of 10 years before that power plant comes online. And the costs are always going to blow out. Now, here's the other problem. Like Elon Musk pointed out, no one wants to live near a nuclear power plant. So the land that the power plants use is much bigger than what pro-nuclear fans are saying. Pro-nuclear fans are like, oh yeah, people will live nearby. They'll be more than happy to live a few kilometers away. But in reality, no one ever is. I mean, why would you be after Chernobyl, after Fukushima, right? It doesn't make sense. The high upfront costs and burden on consumers of adding nuclear to Australia's energy mix have been confirmed in an independent review. Now, this review came right before I got sent a few emails from Australians saying we need nuclear in Queensland. Queensland of all places. It's one of the sunniest places in the world. For some reason, they think that nuclear is the right choice for Queensland. Really, this is just politics. Politicians brainwashing these people, but I understand. Here's the thing. Building nuclear reactors would cost 6 times more than wind and solar power with batteries, according to an independent report released on Saturday by the Clean Energy Council. We support a clear-eyed view of the costs and time required to decarbonise Australia, and right now, nuclear simply doesn't stack up, said the industry's chief executive. Now, reneweconomy.com.au have put all this information together, and I really appreciate what these guys do for us. This is so invaluable. They said taxpayers needed to understand the decades of costs if they were forced to foot the bill for building a nuclear industry from scratch. The analysis prepared by construction and engineering experts EGIS also found nuclear energy had poor economic viability in a grid dominated by renewable energy. So if you live in a country where renewable energy has now become the dominant source of energy, and it has now in many, many countries around the world, adding nuclear to that mix it doesn't really work. Renewable energy will provide 82% of Australia's energy in 2030, so in 6 years from now. That is at least a decade before any nuclear could theoretically be operational. Further, nuclear power stations are not designed to ramp up and down to align with renewable energy generation. Adding to the cost challenges, Australia has no nuclear energy industry because it is prohibited under Commonwealth and state laws. These laws would need to be changed here in Australia. So guys, if we're discussing the issue of global nuclear power plants, it's a bit more complicated, but the truth is that honestly, there are very few places on the planet where it's an affordable and logical proposition to build a new nuclear power plant. And one of the key reasons for that is simply the reality of today's modern grids. Mr. Thornton said the analysis confirmed that building nuclear power stations instead of renewables would cause power prices to explode. It would massively increase the cost of electricity. And as consumers, why would you want that? Why would you want to be part of that? I mean, for example, it would be more logical for most people, even in Western Europe, even in coal places in Europe, to simply install their own power. Get their own solar panels, and not use power from the grid in order to save money from expensive nuclear. The analysis was based on the CSIRO's Gen Cost 2023-2024 consultation draft, the Mineral Council of Australia's Small Modular Reactors study, and the industry benchmark Lazard Levelized Cost of Energy report. But the report didn't take into account this. These small modular nuclear reactors, they're great in theory. Same thing, same problem here. We don't really have any currently operational. The price is always far more expensive, like I said, in terms of actually building them than what is quoted by these companies. And at this point in time, the modular nuclear reactor idea, which I've made a few different videos on, it's just not happening. It hasn't happened yet. Will it in the future? Probably, but we're not there yet. Now, the other thing to consider here is the analysis that's been done recently. It does not include decommissioning a nuclear power plant, which is expensive. It doesn't include getting rid of the actual nuclear waste. There's other cost calculations that go into a nuclear power plant that weren't even included here, which would make the option of nuclear even more expensive. Now, keep in mind, over the past 12 months, the cost of solar panels, the wholesale cost from the biggest suppliers in the world, has come down by 50%. Nuclear costs have not come down at all. The nuclear story, it was great. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it did make economic sense then. I agree with you 100%. Today, it doesn't. Keep in mind, those reductions in the cost of solar panels, the exact same thing, but even more so, has happened to battery storage. Now, most grids need 4-hour battery storage, sometimes up to 8 hours, depending on how much wind generation you have at nighttime. Even that is far more cost effective based on the fact that battery prices have come down by just stratospheric amounts over the past 10 years. It has made renewable options so much cheaper than nuclear. So this is a bit of a call out to you guys who keep sending me these nuclear stories, nuclear emails. Guys, it's time to realize that option is no longer remotely realistic.